I never used to be afraid of long roads at night, but everything changed because of what happened on the Highway 41. It was close to winter, the kind of cold that makes the air feel sharp, and I was driving home after a late shift. I remember checking the clock. It was 1:13 a.m. The road was empty except for my headlights stretching forward into nothing. Then I saw it, a black car in my rear view mirror. No license plate, no logo, no visible brand. Just a perfectly smooth front grille and two white headlights that didn't blink or shake. It stayed behind me at exactly the same distance for almost 5 minutes. I kept glancing at it, waiting for it to pass, but it didn't. I pressed the gas a little and the car matched me perfectly. I slowed down and it slowed too. That was when the feeling hit me. That cold pressure in my chest, like I had already done something wrong and the universe was about to punish me. I switched lanes. The black car switched lanes instantly. No hesitation. Then its headlights brightened. Not flashing, just intensifying, like someone slowly turning a dial. I tapped my brakes to signal it to back off, and the moment the lights hit my mirror directly, I swear everything inside my car went silent. My radio cut out. The dashboard flickered. The road in front of me dimmed, like someone was lowering the brightness of the world. I blinked hard. The lines on the pavement blurred for a second, and the only things perfectly sharp were those two headlights behind me. I forced myself to breathe. I tried calling someone, but my phone showed no service, even though that stretch of Highway 41 always had full bars. That was when the black car pulled closer, inches from my bumper. My heart started punching the inside of my ribs. I took the next exit ramp without thinking, a hard right turn that should have thrown off any normal driver. But when I looked back, the black car was already there, following me at the exact same angle like it had predicted the movement. I drove into a small town, thinking that if I reached light or people I would feel safer. But every street was empty at this hour. All the shops were closed, windows dark. Trees stood still. Lights at intersections flickered weirdly, like they were struggling to stay on. I turned left, right, left again, trying to lose it, but every corner I took, the black car was already aligned behind me. That was when something even worse happened. The headlights began to change color. Not like LED lights cycling, not smooth. It was like they pulsed between cold white and a faint red glow, almost like the lights were breathing. My eyes watered, and every time they pulsed red, my hands shook on the steering wheel. I don't know how to explain it. There was no sound coming from the car, no engine noise, no tires on asphalt. It was like it floated. I finally reached a long, straight residential street, and that was when the car made its move. It accelerated forward without any build-up. No engine growl, no rev, just instantly faster. I panicked and threw my wheel to the side, parking crooked in front of a random house. The black car shot past me, but it didn't slow down. It didn't brake. It continued straight until the headlights suddenly cut out, like someone unplugged them. The car's shape dissolved into the darkness at the far end of the street. I waited, holding my breath, hands numb. My ears rang from my own heartbeat. After almost a full minute of nothing, I stepped out of my car. The night felt heavier than before. I looked down the long street. The air shimmered slightly, like heat rising from pavement, even though it was freezing. Then, everything went silent again. No wind, no distant cars, not even insects. I don't think I've ever felt a silence like that. Got back into my car and drove home, shaking. The next morning, I returned to the same street in daylight. I needed to see it in normal conditions to convince myself it wasn't some late-night hallucination. The road looked normal. People walking, dogs barking, cars passing. But when I looked closely at the asphalt where the black car vanished, I saw something that made my stomach twist. The lines on the road were warped, like the paint had melted and re-hardened in a subtly twisted pattern, all pointing toward the end of the street. I followed them. They stopped abruptly at a point where the pavement dipped slightly. The air above that dip shimmered in the sunlight, just like it had the night before. I stepped back, and a man watering his lawn looked at me. "You saw it, didn't you?" he said, not as a question but a statement. I asked him what he meant. He shook his head slowly. "People around here don't talk about it," he said, "but if you saw the shimmer, you should stay off the roads at night." I tried to ask more, but he just turned away, refusing to speak again. I never returned to that street, but sometimes late at night when I'm driving home, I check my rear view mirror out of instinct. And when the road stretches empty behind me, my chest tightens because I know one day those same white headlights might appear again, silent and steady, matching my speed perfectly. And if they do, I don't think I'll be able to outrun them a second time. I used to take the same route home every night, a stretch of old highway that passed under an aging concrete overpass. The structure had been there longer than I'd been alive, stained with rust and dark streaks from decades of rainwater. Every time I drove under it, my headlights would catch the same cracks, the same chipped edges, the same graffiti that never seemed to change. But one night, something was different. It was 12:47 a.m., a dead hour when the world feels thinner, and I saw a man standing completely still beneath the overpass. He wasn't moving, not even shifting his weight. He faced the road directly, legs together, arms hanging by his sides. I slowed down without meaning to, because something about his posture didn't look right. It wasn't relaxed or tense or even tired. It was empty, like he had forgotten how to be a person. My headlights washed over him, and that was when I noticed something that made a cold line run down my spine. He cast no shadow, not a faint one, not a distorted one. There was nothing behind him but darkness. My car crawled forward, and for a split second I thought he would react, turn his head, move an inch, anything. But he didn't. He stayed perfectly still, staring at my car with unwavering focus. I thought maybe he needed help. Maybe he was hurt or disoriented, and some part of my exhausted brain told me to stop. But another part screamed at me to keep going, to get out of there before something terrible happened. As I passed him, I looked in my side mirror, and that was the first time I saw his face. There were no features, no eyes, no nose, no mouth, just a smooth, pale surface like someone had wiped everything clean. I slammed the gas, heart pounding so hard it hurt. I didn't stop until I reached home, and even then, I sat in my driveway for several minutes, staring at my shaking hands. The next night, I told myself I had imagined it. I was sleep deprived, overstressed, but when I approached the overpass again, I slowed down, unable to stop myself from checking. He was there, the same position, the same featureless face, the same absence of a shadow. I drove faster this time, refusing to look at him as I passed. But curiosity is poison, and in my mirror, I saw something that made my stomach twist. He had turned. His body was now facing the direction I was driving, head tilted slightly, as if observing me. He wasn't doing that the night before. I told myself to take a different route home, but habits are hard to break. And the third night, I made the same mistake. I approached the overpass with dread growing in my chest. My knuckles whitened around the steering wheel. He was there again, but not underneath the center of the overpass anymore. This time he was closer to the road, as if he had moved forward a few steps since the night before. I forced myself not to slow down, eyes locked ahead. But the moment I passed him, my radio let out a burst of static, and the lights inside my car flickered. I looked in the mirror, terrified, and nearly swerved off the road. He was standing in the middle of the lane behind me, directly where my car had been seconds before, as if he had teleported. My breath came shallow, fast. I drove home feeling like my skin didn't fit right. When I parked, my porch lights flickered the same way my car lights had. I barely slept. The next day at work, I asked a co-worker who lived near that area if he had ever seen someone standing under the overpass. He went quiet. His jaw clenched, and he avoided my eyes. "You shouldn't look at him," he said. I asked what he meant. "People around here know. There's something wrong with that place." I pressed him, but he refused to explain further. He only said one thing before walking away. "If he moves closer, don't drive that road again." That night, I took a longer route home. It added 20 minutes, but I didn't care. I wasn't going anywhere near that overpass. But curiosity is cruel. It eats at you slowly, and the entire drive, I couldn't stop wondering if the man would still be there, waiting. Then, at 1:03 a.m., my radio cut to static again. My headlights dimmed for a heartbeat, and in that brief pulse of darkness, I saw him standing on the shoulder of the new road. Not under the overpass. Not far away. No. He was 10 feet from my passenger door. Head tilted toward me. No face. No shadow. Just standing completely still, waiting. Like he knew I would come this way. Like he had followed me. I hit the gas without thinking, tears blurring my vision. My chest felt tight. My fingers numb. When I finally reached home, I ran inside and locked every door. My porch light flickered once, then stabilized. I haven't driven at night since then, and sometimes when I wake up between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m., the hour when the world feels thin, I swear I hear static coming from my living room, even though nothing is turned on. I don't know what he wants. I don't know why he follows me. But I know one thing with absolute certainty. He's getting closer. I was driving back from a friend's place late one night, and my fuel gauge had been sitting near empty for longer than I liked. The highway I was on cut through a long stretch of forest, and for almost 30 miles there hadn't been a single open station. When my low fuel light started blinking, I pulled out my phone to search for the nearest gas stop. There was only one option within range, a small station listed as Oak Ridge Fuel. It had no reviews, no photos, nothing, just an address. I didn't care. It was the only choice. My car rolled into the station at 1:56 a.m. The first thing I noticed was how dark everything looked. No interior lights, no signage, just the dim yellow glow of the overhead lamps, each one flickering like they were struggling to stay alive. The place looked abandoned. If it weren't for the fact that the pumps were still powered, I would have driven away. But my tank was nearly dry, and I didn't have the luxury to choose. I stepped out of the car, and the air felt wrong. It wasn't the cold, not the humidity. It was like the air itself was thick, heavy, almost sticky. I swiped my card, and the pump beeped, but the screen didn't show any text. It just displayed a pale green glow with no letters. I hesitated, but the nozzle clicked, letting me start fueling. I kept glancing at the building's windows. They were dark, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was inside, watching. I tried to calm myself, telling my brain it was just exhaustion, until I heard the first sound. A soft tapping. It came from the far corner of the gas station building, slow and rhythmic. Tap, tap, tap. I froze. My heart thudded in my chest. I told myself it was a loose sign or a piece of metal swaying in the wind, but there was no wind, not even a breeze. The trees surrounding the station stood completely still. The tapping grew louder, faster, like whoever was making it realized I could hear them. I hung the nozzle back and turned toward my car. That was when I saw movement near the store window, a silhouette, a human shape, but wrong in proportions. The arms hung too low, almost reaching the knees, and the head tilted in a way no living person would hold it. I jumped into my car, but when I tried to start the engine, it sputtered. Failed. I hit the ignition again, desperate. The tapping suddenly stopped. The silence was so complete, it felt pressurized. Then, slowly, something dragged across the asphalt. Soft, scraping steps approaching from behind me. I locked the doors, hands shaking. I didn't want to look, but instinct forced me to check the mirrors. At first, I saw nothing, just the empty pumps and the flickering lights. Then something moved at the very edge of the left mirror, a pale hand reaching around the back of my car. The fingers were too long, too thin, bending in sharp angles like broken branches. I slammed the ignition again, and the engine finally roared to life. The creature, or whatever it was, jerked its hand back as if surprised. I stomped the gas pedal. My tires screeched and I shot forward. But as the station blurred behind me, I heard something hit the trunk. A heavy thud, followed by a dragging sound. I sped up, heart beating so hard it hurt. Before I reached the highway, the sound stopped completely. When I got home, I didn't get out immediately. I sat there shaking, staring at the rearview mirror. The road behind me was empty. The night was silent. I finally got out and checked the trunk. There was a long smear across the paint. Not a scratch, not dirt. It was something darker, almost black-green, like algae or thick mold, smeared in the shape of fingers. I scrubbed it off the next morning until my hands hurt. But even after the mark disappeared, something else remained. The smell. a faint, rotting odour that no cleaner could remove. I tried searching for the gas station online again, hoping to make sense of it. But this time, Oak Ridge Fuel didn't show up at all. No address, no listing, nothing, like the place didn't exist. And now, every night around 2 a.m, I hear tapping on my car windows. The same slow rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. I haven't gone outside to check. Whatever followed me from that station, I don't want to see it again. When my aunt passed away, she left me her old countryside house, a place I hadn't visited since I was a kid. The house sat alone at the end of a narrow dirt road, surrounded by tall grass and crooked trees that always seemed to lean inward as if listening. The day I arrived, the air smelled of dust and old wood, and the front porch creaked under my weight like it recognized me. The inside was exactly how I remembered it. Dim, quiet, smelling faintly of peppermint and something else I couldn't identify at first. I explored the rooms one by one, brushing my fingers across shelves full of old books and picture frames covered in a thin layer of grime. The floorboards groaned with every step, but they weren't random groans. They were rhythmic, almost like they responded to my movements. When I said hello just to break the silence, one of the floorboards near the hallway clicked sharply, like someone tapping twice. I froze. I told myself old houses make noises, especially after being empty for years. But deep down, a cold knot formed in my stomach. Night fell quickly in that house, and by the time I finished unpacking, it was past 11 p.m. The wind outside had picked up, brushing against the windows in long, dragging strokes. I sat in the living room, turning on a small lamp I found on the end table. The bulb flickered once, then steadied. The house around me seemed to settle too, as if adjusting to my presence, when I muttered, "I guess it's just you and me now." The same floorboard in the hallway clicked twice again. I stared into the dark corridor, feeling like the shadows were holding their breath. I tried to distract myself by making tea, but as I waited for the kettle to boil, I heard something behind me, a soft shuffle. I turned quickly, but nothing was there, only the dim hallway stretching toward my aunt's old bedroom. I whispered, "Is someone there?" A soft thud echoed back, coming from the far end of the hall. My skin prickled. I walked slowly toward the sound, each step matched by faint clicks beneath the floorboards, like the house was mimicking me. I reached the bedroom door and gently pushed it open. The room smelled stronger here, the same strange scent I'd noticed earlier. It wasn't peppermint. It was something metallic, faint but sharp, like old coins or dried blood. The windows were shut, the curtains unmoving. I stepped inside, and the moment my foot pressed down, the entire floor creaked in a long, drawn-out moan. I whispered, "I'm not here to bother you." The room answered with 2 quick taps beneath my feet. I stumbled back, heart hammering. I decided to sleep on the couch instead, but the house wouldn't let me rest. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard soft clicks, shifting groans, and sometimes even patterns. 3 taps, a pause, then 2 more, like knocking codes. I tried covering my ears with a pillow, but the vibrations traveled through the floor, up the walls, into the frame of the couch itself. It felt like the entire house was speaking in a language I couldn't understand. At around 3:12 a.m., I woke up to a gentle whisper right beside my ear. I shot upright. No one was there, but the air was freezing and the lamp I'd left on had gone dark. I didn't have time to process it because the floor in front of me clicked 3 times, slow, deliberate, like footsteps approaching. I scrambled backward, watching the floorboards bend ever so slightly with each invisible step. When the steps reached the edge of the living room carpet, they stopped. I held my breath. The house was completely silent. Then something pressed down on the couch cushion beside me. Not hard, just enough to sink the fabric an inch or two, as if someone invisible had taken a seat. My blood turned cold. I whispered, "What do you want?" And for the first time, the answer didn't come from the floor. It came from the walls. A low, drawn-out groan that traveled from corner to corner, surrounding me. The house wasn't just old. It wasn't just settling. It was alive, and it was listening. Frozen in terror, I stayed awake until the first hint of sunlight bled through the curtains. The weight on the couch lifted. The house fell still. I packed my bags without brushing my teeth or changing clothes. I didn't look back as I drove away. But even now, weeks later, when I lie in bed trying to sleep, I hear faint clicks beneath the floorboards of my apartment. Not the building settling. No, these are patterns, purposeful. 2 taps, a pause, then 3. That same rhythm the house used the first night, and every day the taps get a little louder, a little closer, like whatever was in that house followed me, still listening, still waiting for me.